I spent 60 years of my life building an empire, only to discover that the only person who truly loved me earned $200 a month to clean my house. My name is Walter. I'm 82 years old, and I have a fortune that I no longer know what it's for. But before you think this is just another story of a grumpy old man, let me tell you something that changed everything for me. Something that made me understand what really matters in this life. If you're listening to this, maybe you've already felt that loneliness that aches in your chest. Hit that like button. Maybe this story will reach someone who needs to hear it. I'm here in my leather armchair, the same one where my Eleanor used to sit doing her knitting. It's been 5 years since she passed. 5 years since this house became a museum of my own life. Sometimes I still smell her favorite perfume in the air, the one she'd worn since we first met. After Eleanor died, I thought the family would come together more, that the kids would show up, that the grandchildren would want to hear Grandpa's stories. But it didn't quite work out that way. The visits started coming, yes, always with that somewhat forced smile, that disguised hurry. They always ended with the same conversation. "Dad, don't you think it would be better to invest in..." or "Grandpa, could you help me with..." Rosa, the woman who's taken care of the house for 15 years, always noticed my disappointment after these visits. She'd arrive on Monday and find the house still messy from Sunday, me looking pretty beat down in my chair. "Mr. Walter," she'd say while wiping down the table, "you didn't eat the leftover food, did you? I'll heat it up for you." Rosa had known my Eleanor since they were younger. She worked here throughout Eleanor's entire illness, would stay late when Eleanor had episodes, helped with baths, with medication. After Eleanor died, she kept coming, sort of adopted me. But I was so buried in my own pain that I barely paid attention to her. I barely asked how her children were doing, how she was managing. She'd show up, take care of everything, and leave. I'd pay her salary, and that was it. Then my 82nd birthday came around. I'd had a chocolate cake made, one of those really big ones. Rosa arrived early to set everything up. She always did this, showed up without me asking, in that way of hers, determined but gentle. "Mr. Walter," she said while waxing the living room floor, "do you want me to set the good table? The crystal one that Mrs. Eleanor liked?" I said yes. I figured that at least on my birthday the family would behave, would stay a while, talk. Richard, my son, arrived 2 hours late. He walked in talking on his cell phone, gave me a quick peck on the forehead and continued with his call. "Sorry, Dad, work stuff." My granddaughter Emma was on her phone the whole time. When I tried to tell a story about when I started the company, she kind of sighed. But the worst part was after the birthday song, they cut the cake quickly and there came Richard with that conversation. "Dad, don't you think it would be interesting for us to talk about some investments?" I looked around the table. Everyone there, eating my cake, sitting at my table, waiting for me to die soon so they could take what was mine. By 8 at night, the house was empty again. Just me and Rosa, who stayed to wash the dishes. "Rosa," I said, "you can go home. You can clean this stuff tomorrow." She stopped washing the dishes and looked at me. "Mr. Walter, are you okay? You look pretty beat down." "Beat down," she said, "beat down." I hadn't heard anyone ask if I was okay in so long. That night, alone with the leftover cake, I made a decision. I was going to do a test. I was going to find out who really cared about me, who would stay by my side if I had nothing. The following Monday, I called my accountant and explained the plan. He thought it was strange, but agreed to participate. We spread the news. The company had gone under. I had lost everything in a crisis. I was going to have to sell the house and live on Social Security benefits. The reaction was exactly what I expected, and that's what hurt the most. Richard called me the same day. "Dad, what's this story? How did you let this happen?" As if it were my fault. Sarah, my daughter, called later. "Daddy, are you sure? Don't you have anything saved?" She didn't ask if I was okay, if I was scared. She just wanted to know if there was still money somewhere. In the first 2 weeks, everyone still called, but they were quick calls, kind of awkward. "That's too bad, Dad. Everything will work out. We'll talk soon." After a month, the calls became rarer. Second month, almost nothing. Third month, just quick birthday calls and text messages. But there's one thing that never changed. Every Tuesday and Friday, at 2 o'clock sharp, The doorbell would ring. It was her. "Mr. Walter," I brought a home-cooked meal. Had leftovers from lunch at my place. I said, "Rosa, I can't pay you properly anymore. The situation is complicated." She smiled. "Oh, Mr. Walter will manage. The important thing is that you don't stay here alone." And she kept coming, every Tuesday and Friday. Sometimes she'd bring a flower she'd picked from the neighbor's garden. Other times she'd arrive with tea that her daughter had sent for my insomnia. "Mr. Walter," she'd say while organizing the bookshelf, "have you been taking your blood pressure medication? Or, how about we make some coffee? I brought some cookies." I hadn't heard someone ask if I'd taken my medicine in ages. I hadn't heard someone worry about whether I was eating properly in so long. One day she was cleaning the shelf where Eleanor's photos are kept. She picked up a photo of us from our wedding, looked at it lovingly and said, "Mrs. Eleanor was beautiful, wasn't she? What a beautiful smile. You must miss her." I almost cried right there. It had been months since anyone had talked about Eleanor with me. "I do miss her, Rosa. Every day." "I can imagine, Mr. Walter, but look here." She pointed to the photo. "See how she's smiling? She was happy with you. Nobody can take that away." And she never asked about the money, never wanted to know details about the bankruptcy, never treated me differently. She kept calling me Mr. Walter the same way. One day she was making tea in the kitchen and I asked, "Rosa, aren't you afraid I won't be able to pay you?" She laughed softly. "Mr. Walter, I've worked here for 15 years. I took care of Mrs. Eleanor when she got sick. I saw you crying alone after the funeral. Money comes and goes, but there are things that don't change. There are things that don't change." That's when I started to notice. Rosa had always been there. When Eleanor got sick, she'd arrive earlier and leave later. When I had pneumonia last year, she showed up with soup every day. She knew my quirks. She knew I like my coffee stronger in the morning. She knew I can't sleep if the house isn't in order. She knew I like to sit on the porch in the late afternoon. And me? I barely knew her children's names. I barely knew she was supporting 3 grandchildren by herself. I barely knew she woke up at 5 in the morning to get to my house by 8. 3 months passed. 3 months of an empty house, a silent phone, discovering that the only person who truly cared about me was a simple woman who earned $1,200 to take care of my house. It was on a Friday that I decided to tell the truth. She was in the kitchen preparing that herbal tea she always made. I approached slowly. "Rosa, I need to tell you something." She stopped stirring the sugar. "Go ahead, Mr. Walter." I lied. I didn't lose anything. I pretended to be poor to see who would stay with me. She looked at me for a while, then went back to stirring the tea. She smiled in that way of hers and said, "I suspected as much." "You suspected. Rich men don't become poor overnight like that. And another thing." She handed me the cup. "Rich or poor, you've always been the same good man to me." I was speechless. She suspected. She suspected and kept coming. She suspected and kept caring. "Rosa, why didn't you say anything?" She sat in the chair across from me, held the cup with both hands. "Mr. Walter, you must have felt very lonely to do something like that. I wasn't going to leave you even more alone." And she said something I'll never forget. "Mr. Walter, money doesn't keep you company. It doesn't ask if you slept well. It doesn't remember you when you're sad." She was right. I had spent 60 years building an empire, but I had forgotten to build a real family. I had forgotten that affection can't be bought, it's offered. Today, 6 months after the test, my life is different. I didn't go back to talking to my children. They never called again to see if I was okay. But I discovered I do have a family. Rosa now has lunch with me every Tuesday and Friday. I met her children, her grandchildren. I help with the kids' school supplies. They call me Grandpa Walter and listen to me tell stories. I made some changes to my will. Rosa will have a part. Her grandchildren will have help with their education. It wasn't out of anger at my children. It was out of gratitude. Yesterday she brought a cornbread cake. We sat in the kitchen, had coffee, and she told me about her grandson's school meeting. I told her about when I met Eleanor. "Mr. Walter," she said, "you look more rested. Seems like you're sleeping better." It's true. I am sleeping better. Because I finally found what I had lost. Someone who cares about me for who I am, not for what I have. For 3 months, I pretended to be poor. But I discovered I'd been rich for 15 years and didn't know it. Rich to have someone who asked if I was okay. Rich to have someone who brought flowers to brighten my house. Rich to have someone who knew me and liked me anyway. Today is Friday. She'll be here soon with the home-cooked meal. We'll have lunch together. She'll tell me news about her family. I'll show her old photos of Eleanor. We'll have tea on the porch, and I've never been so rich in my life, because true wealth is who remembers you. It's who asks if you're okay. It's who stays when everyone else leaves. Tell me something. Have you ever felt that loneliness of being surrounded by people but alone inside? Have you ever wanted to know who really cares about you? If you have someone who truly takes care of you, who asks if you're okay, who remembers your preferences, treasure that person, because they are your most precious treasure. My name is Walter. I'm 82 years old. I pretended to be poor to discover who loved me. And I found the purest wealth that exists. Love without interest, affection without price, the family you choose. Oh, here she comes. I'll let you go. We have tea to drink and stories to tell. Take good care of those who take care of you, because in the end, that's what remains.